Well, welcome back to Faith Family Fishing. I am excited to be here tonight with my friend Leonard Bench. A quick shout out to Taste of China. You'll see it rolling in the credits. We love to eat there. We think you will too. So thanks, Leonard, for as we went through tonight and setting things up. You know, I've been wanting to have this interview for a while. I mean, ever since we played golf that day, I think I told you, reminded me of my granddad on a different scale. But as you see here, I think RJ kind of alluded to it. We didn't want to get too many stories going on behind the scenes. But, we started this with, now you see the cameras and everything that we do. RJ, he just nerded out. We started with a couple phones. And actually they did well, and so what we've had to learn over the time is sound and camera. And RJ's like, call me up, hey, I just put a bid on a camera on eBay. I said, people still use eBay? He goes, yeah, I put a bid on camera. And then, he goes, I put another bid in on the camera. And I'm like, easy, RJ. I mean, come on. And so it's turned in. It really is, as I said, this is really turned into a little ministry of us for us. So thank you for setting in with us and working
welcome.
with that.
My pleasure.
So the whole idea around this is, I think what we said is, faith, family, fishing. And I think I've told you this one time before is, anytime I've made a decision, it's been God, family, work. Right, that's it in that order, and when I do it in that order, I don't seem to make as many mistakes, right? And so I wanted a tie to that, as like, faith is what drives me, family is next, and then fishing. I truly believe, and we tested this at the church launch, that is a gift. It truly is a gift God has given us that links us all. And we got a reel coming out here really soon where we interviewed about 20 or 30 people at the groundbreaking ceremony. And I won't spoil too much. We had the mayor there and some other people, but there was one lady that she's like, I have no fishing stories. I said, oh, okay, well, let's just see. She goes, the only fishing story I'll tell you is when I first moved to Conroe. I remember a paper and reading in the paper they caught this extremely large catfish, like, I mean, just crazy big, could swallow a man.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't 30 seconds later, she was talking about, well, and then we were in Saudi Arabia scuba diving. You could tell him fishing with dad, and the fish would just eat off your toes. She goes, I go, that's a fishing story.
That's right.
That's a fishing story. So anyway, that's kind of how we got here, and it's held true to everybody. People who don't think they have it, and I think 9 times out of 10, outside of Aaron Laird, I pick on it just so it's a tradition now to pick on Aaron until he comes back on here, because you know as well as I do, Aaron is like me, tons of fishing stories.
I'm sure.
And he gives us a boating story when he was out fishing. I go, so I pick on him every time. So I love him for it. But again, welcome. That's a little bit of the history how we got here. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Native Houstonian, born in Houston and St. Joseph Hospital downtown. Moved up here to Montgomery in 2019. We bought our house on Lake Conroe in 2013, but it was kind of a weekend home. And then, of course, got involved with the church and went through all of that. And now at the church here in Montgomery, fixing to break ground and build our new facility. So excited about that.
Yeah, the history of the church, and so we're both members at church at Montgomery.
Yes, sir.
And we're over in the junior high. I always forget the name of the junior high.
Oak Hills.
Oak Hills Junior High. That's right. Oak Hills Junior High. I'm bad.
That's okay.
But we now have we purchased land, and we just had a groundbreaking ceremony as we talked about, and that whole breaking away. You and I were on the board,
right?
And breaking away, and it was like God laid this plan for us.
Yes, he did.
You know, Church of the Woodlands, right, just came in and said, "Hey, y'all wanna be a partner, a part of us?" We're like, "Yeah." My whole big thing was on that, and that's where I really got introduced more to you. It was I just want to make sure we had a youth program.
Sure.
That was my biggest thing. You know, that was, hey, we got whatever we do. That little girl that's sitting over here behind the camera today, I got to make sure that she has,
better believe it,
that place to grow. But I think we hadn't played golf yet, but your financial acumen was on point. With the questions and how you were breaking things down, I was just enthralled with your business mind, and then when we played golf together. So tell us this. I mean, so you're born in Houstonian, but so you went to college at
University of Houston. I was the proverbial commuter student.
Okay.
First 2 years after high school, still lived at home, and then after our sophomore year at University of Houston, Linda and I got married. So we got married very young. We were babies and kind of grew up.
Did y'all meet in college, or did you meet before that?
We knew each other in high school, but we never dated till right after high school.
Right after, so almost high school sweethearts.
Yes.
So you for the best part is that you married your high school sweetheart.
That's right. That's true.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, so how many years have you been married now?
57.
Okay. That is just a tale of. I mean, we sit close together at church. I always hug her. She hugs me. She comes and finds me. She is just the sweetest woman.
Yeah. I've been very blessed.
Now at that time, had you got to know her father, or I mean, obviously you had to meet him to marry.
Right. My first year of college, I was working construction the summer before, so I was able to get my classes only on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then I worked construction on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday.
Okay.
By the time we were dating 7 or 8 months, second semester couldn't get my classes on those days. So he said, "You can come to work for me and candle eggs any time of the day or night." It made no difference. It just had to be done.
Looking back, and we're not going to, we'll kind of foreshadowing a little bit for the reader, right, or the listener, or our one viewer. Did you have any idea how that was going to change your life?
Not really. My dad had always worked for Exxon. And of course, he was a big believer in the big company, and they take care of you and everything. So him and my mother weren't that keen on me working for this little egg company.
Right.
But what I saw is the opportunity to do more than sell eggs.
Yep.
We had trucks, we had refrigeration, so we had facilities to handle anything that would demand those type of conditions. And so it wasn't long after I got started there that we started handling some shortening. This was wound up being a good friend of mine ultimately, but worked for Procter & Gamble.
Okay.
And so he sold Linda's dad on the idea that we ought to handle shortening. And after that, when we saw how easy it was, because we were going to those restaurants, with eggs, you can drop off a few cases of shortening.
Okay.
And then had an opportunity about 2 years into working there to buy a butter and cheese company. And this was an unusual situation. The man that owned it was Doc Ayers, and Doc wanted to retire, and Doc needed to retire. Doc had a little bit of a drinking problem. In fact, when we'd start in the morning at 6, he'd call his customers, we'd load the truck up, and then we'd go make deliveries. Well, after each delivery, Doc stopped. Back then, it was called ice houses.
Yep.
He'd stop at an
There's
ice
still a
house.
few on the east side of town.
That's right. And he would call it, "I'm going to have a sarsaparilla," which was a beer. So he'd have a beer, and I'd have a soda water. And toward the end of the day, I was driving and Doc was riding.
Yeah, you switched. That's interesting. And so, I mean, I started in my granddad's Western company, and so you might have remembered it around since you're Houstonian, Don's Western Wear.
Yeah.
So that was my granddad.
Okay.
Similar to Doc, this is nothing secret.
Yeah.
He had a gambling problem.
Okay.
And so that it was kind of the ultimate demise. But till then, I mean, but my dad, I remember this just like it was yesterday. I was kind of doing something in the neighborhood to make a little extra money, and he said that you're going to learn how the working side of this family makes money. I was 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
And minimum wage, I'll never forget this. Minimum wage was $3.15. They were paying me $2 an hour because I was family, and I was family. They could get away with it, and I had to scrub toilets. He goes, you're not going there. People are not, the other employees aren't going to think. My dad was like, think that you're going to get extra credit. If you're being some here from the family, you're going to earn your spot.
Right.
And that went a long way, and I think kind of who I am.
Sure.
In that. But it sounds like, though, I mean, your father-in-law threw you in. You were, so you're learning every role in the business.
That's correct. Yeah. And one thing, whenever he was going to make a business decision, he would include me, and then 2 years later, my brother-in-law now joined us, and so he kind of included us in, kind of like, take you under your wing and show you what's going on. Now, as it turned out over the years, my brother-in-law wasn't that interested, where I was pretty involved and wanted to learn more. And in going to school, I was taking business classes. Mm-hmm. So I was opportunity to see what we were being taught in action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're learning and kind of fast forward a little bit. You're learning every role of the business. So he decides to kind of step away, and you step in. Right.
What he did is, they were originally from Carmine, Texas, which is just outside of Round Top, and at that time the farmers in that area had their land paid for. Farming 100 acres or 150 acres wasn't profitable anymore.
Right.
So what they would do is, he would go talk to them about building a chicken house, usually for 25,000 birds. And if the farmer his land was free and clear, so he put it up as collateral. He could borrow the money. They had the people that would actually build it. And the farmer's obligation was to take care of the chickens.
Okay.
Collect the eggs and everything. And then, of course, my father-in-law owned the birds.
Right.
And they had to feed them and collect the eggs and so forth. And they would bring the eggs to Houston. We would wash them and clean them and grate them and pack them. And so he got real involved in that as he stepped away from the business there in Houston and was busy talking to other farmers about putting out chicken houses and stuff.
Okay.
I just took more of a role of running the business.
Okay.
Now, I always included him on
big decisions.
Yeah, big decision. We were going to do something, if we were going to buy another company. And over the years, Shannon, we bought 8 different companies.
Wow.
The last one being a protein company. And there, the object of that was, there was always the feeling within the industry that if you control the center of the plate, which was the protein, that it was easier to sell, or the customer then to buy the ancillary items that went with it, the French fries and the vegetables and stuff like that. So that's how we finished our program of growing.
So is that still true today about how they sell?
Oh, yes.
You start with the protein and work your way out.
Yep.
So what was the name of the egg company when you started?
It was Jake's Eggs.
So it was Jake's Eggs, and then you just changed the name later on to Jake's Food?
Jake's Finer Foods.
Finer Foods.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, because as you're buying these different companies.
Right.
And so, I mean, so it was about 8 companies, you said?
Yes, sir.
So it started, I work for a living. You can call me. You just call me Shannon. I'm just kidding. Whatever, sir. It works. That's an Army thing.
Yeah, that's right.
So this egg company, you were able to use it to expand into all these other different markets. Right. And I think it's interesting. So you're now kind of sitting at the board, you're kind of leading the ship. You start doing the same thing that was done to you, right?
Correct.
Your son and son-in-law,
Right.
Explain. Did they always want to be part of it, or was it your kind of dream to pass on?
Well, my son-in-law went to A&M, and of course he married my oldest daughter, so he was about 4 or 5 years older than Michael, and so Kevin was the influence on Michael going to A&M.
Okay.
Because Kevin was a gun-ho Aggie, and so Michael went up there, stayed with him, a few times, and he decided he wanted to go up there and become an Aggie. And they were both in the business school, in the Mays Business School.
So
there.
before we go too far,
Yeah.
Did you watch his game this past weekend?
Oh yes,
that 27-point comeback.
Both of them were at the game.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. That was a miracle.
that was a miracle. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
It kind of like, we might, what is it called? Aggie hope. We're like, we can't let Aggie hope get in the way because that's what ruins us, right? Is get us to the thing. So your son-in-law is getting your son kind of actively involved.
Yeah. Now, and out of college, Kevin went to work for Foley's here in Houston.
Okay.
And started working.
Is Kevin your son?
My son-in-law.
Son-in-law. Okay.
Kevin Ulrich. And then when Michael got out of school, he went to work for Arthur Anderson.
Okay.
And that was about the time of Enron.
Yep.
So we teased Michael that he was helping them shred documents.
I remember the whole big Enron. I almost ended up at Enron.
Oh, really?
In my early tech days, I worked for EDS.
Okay.
And I remember EDS had 2 contracts, one with them, and then we were kicking off one with Exxon. And I was down there and with the Enron, the group at Enron, and I remember going through the interview, and they're like, "Hey, we hear a couple people want you. This is what." He goes, "But if you do bad on this interview, we're going to tell everybody." I'm like, "Why do I want to be with you?"
That's right. There we go.
I'm like, what are you doing? No, so no, and then a few years later, like you said, I mean, a lot of young people don't even know the whole Enron story. There's a lot of Netflix documentaries and YouTube videos. People should really go watch that to understand about how things get inflated up, and then there's nothing really there. I mean, that is the case. So we won't debate that on this channel. No. We'll keep going. So your son's decided, finally, your son-in-law.
After that, he went to work for another company that he was introduced when he was working for Arthur Anderson, because they would do these either inventory audits or else they'd have a project for him. We want to look at this issue that we're having. Give me your opinion, Mr. Arthur Anderson. So they'd send these young guys. And the one thing that kind of broke him of the consulting business is there was not such a thing as a 40-hour work week.
It still isn't.
And it's 70 or 80 hours a week. They bust these young kids' chops.
They do.
And I have a grandson now that's working for Bain Consulting.
Okay.
And he's kind of going through that same thing.
That first year when I was at Microsoft, I'd been with some other consulting companies as well. And it was the same way, but not to travel. I was gone a year Ella was born, 300 days. And so I am lifetime titanium, whatever elite Marriott has. Yeah. I'm for life. I walk in and they're like, "Oh, hey, what do you want?" So it's there's lots of people in because the way it works in consulting, whatever hotel you choose in the beginning,
you stay with.
That's who you stay with, because that's how you build up those points and statuses. And so so that's how I became a Marriott guy.
Yep.
Hey, Marriott! Shout out to Marriott. So he got burnt out on the consulting, and you're bringing him in. And what's the size of the business at this point?
At that time, we were probably 70 million, 60 or 70 million in sales.
I mean, you've taken this egg. It's a true
Oh, yeah.
true big business. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean that's there's I know some IT companies don't make that.
Yeah. Well, the first year I was working there, we did not do $1 million in sales, and again, that was just eggs. At our height, we were just a shade under a quarter of a billion, 250 million in sales, like 240 something, and so we grew quite a bit over the years, just having more products, and we were the kind of people that had the attitude, tell us what you're having a problem with, and let us help solve that. And whether it meant bringing in products, or whether it meant adjusting deliveries, or what we did for them, just we wanted to be the solution guy.
That is, and I think it's great that I mean, your son and son-in-law having a consulting background, and you're
Oh,
having
yeah.
that mentality of solution in it. You know, it's not about the product. That's one thing I've tried to tell project managers when I was training them before I left Microsoft, is you're constantly evolving that product.
Right.
You know, and there's philosophies about that. But what is it? What business driver are you trying to fix?
Yep.
That's really what it is, right? And that sounds. I mean, what I find so interesting is it doesn't matter what business you're in.
That's correct.
What does your customer need? What is the business problem you're trying to solve?
Sure.
And then we'll fix this. You know, that's what makes a happy customer. So they take over. When do you kind of step back?
Probably about 2012 or 13, and I'd say step back.
You're not running day to day, but you're always involved.
Yeah, I was always involved, and I was always, we'll say, out there in the warehouse or out there in the trade, either working with salespeople, with customers, or working with our people. You know, what's a better way to do something, and just listening to them, because usually they have the answers. They're just never asked. You know.
I think that's an important trait.
Oh, yes.
Would you agree? And it's one of the things as a leader. Would you agree? You know, when I led teams, that never to ask your team to do something that you're not willing to do or have done.
Amen.
It sounds like that's kind of
very true. That was kind of my MO.
Right. So I think I think it showed in the success of the company. I mean, really, what would you tell? And then somewhere along the line, then y'all decide to sell.
Well, Linda and I sold our part of the business to them. I think it was in 2016 or 17, and it was an unusual arrangement because they had no cash to speak of. So it was a long-term buyout agreement.
Well, I mean, it's family, yeah.
And so I teased them because even after in 2019, when I retired, I'd still come in once or sometimes twice a week, and they would say something, you know, hey, I'm checking my investment.
I got interest payments on this.
I got this note. I want to be sure it gets paid.
That's awesome. And now then y'all eventually sell to a big or bigger place, right? And y'all are big.
Yeah. Now we sold out in this was in January of this year to U.S. Foodservice, and they're the second largest food service distributor in the nation behind Cisco.
Wow.
And one of the key attractiveness to our business for them was the protein business, because I think it was in 2011 we bought this meat company that was called Gourmet Ranch, and so we were able then, like I mentioned, be able to sell the center of the plate and do things that a lot of different meat purveyors couldn't. If someone wanted a special patty, I mean, we would have some that would be a third brisket, a third ground meat, and then maybe a third some other cut for some special hamburger patty that they would then go out and serve.
So this gourmet ranch.
Gourmet Ranch.
I think it's on your box still, or
Yes.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so I know this because you fed the Easter Bunny.
Right.
The Easter Bunny. After we kicked off church, had one requirement.
That's right.
He had one requirement, and I don't know how. That's the only raw deal. I'm the Easter Bunny, so when you come to Easter with our church,
Right.
it's so. And that's a high quality costume, by the way.
That's right.
It is. It's Disney quality. But you show up. He said, I remember it's one of our last meetings. He goes, before we can leave out of here, you said the Easter Bunny had one requirement, and you produced this thing of steaks. And and those were good.
Yeah.
Those were really. But I didn't know at the time. I learned that was your company.
Yes.
That was
Right.
I didn't know. I think one of your best qualities is you do a lot of listening, but when you talk, you're very direct.
Mm-hmm.
You're very you ask good questions, and you're like, well, what about this? What about this? This is where we're at. You're very direct. Were you always that good of a communicator, or how did you develop that?
I would say it grew over the years, and how it grew was watching other people.
Okay.
I was very fortunate. My father-in-law was real involved in financial stuff. He was on the board of several banks. And in fact, I was fortunate to be able to serve as a director on 2 different banks, and to be able and to sit in that room. And as a director, you could have different people in business from different things.
Right.
Or else we had like the president of the University of Houston downtown as one of our fellow board members. So you got to see these people and see how they reacted to the challenges that the business was. And like you said, just sit and listen and, ask intelligent questions. And there's a lot of learning going on in that
Did you think
situation.
that's, setting on those boards, did that build your financial acumen? Because
Oh,
you're
yes.
already pretty good. I mean,
Oh.
running and fit solutioning.
Oh, yes.
But that built your financial acumen.
Right. We, back in, I want to say it was right about 1980 or 1981, we were independent distributor. And so we were not associated with any purchasing group. So I thought that we need to look at this route. Are there different groups that could help us on our buying power and so forth? And sure enough, we came up with one, and we joined it. And over the years, that group merged a couple of times and got to be the largest independent food service distributor association. It was called Unipro, and I was on the board of that for many years, and even served as the chairman of the board. We would rotate around, and every 2 years, different people would get appointed to be the chairman. And again, seeing how these other people, and they ranged in size from smaller than we were to $1 billion in sales. So you got to see some people that had been around the road for a while and had a lot of experience, and that was a tremendous experience there.
So as you're going through this, and one of the purposes, and we talked about this a little bit before the video, is there's not one path to success.
No.
Now, I'm not saying not get a college degree.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm advocating
Right.
for, because my granddad was an 8th grade education. I think if he had a little bit more education, his demons might have not haunted him so much, right? But I also know today 2 plumbers that one's a GED, one's barely a high school education, and they're both worth tremendous.
They do pretty well.
They do really well, and one is getting where he focuses more on commercial, and so big,
Sure.
Big things. So I'm a big believer, especially in this. It's funny with the AI trade, everything is kind of coming on in IT. The trades, the blue collar trades, I think are really where your next generation of millionaires are going to come. I know we have the IT bubble, but that's focused in on some big groups of companies. I think you're going to see in key trades people with a little bit of common sense.
Sure. Right. Shannon, I agree with you completely. I think the opportunities for business out there now are unbelievable. Now, they're a little different set of requirements
Right.
than when I started 40 years ago or 50 years ago, but the opportunities are tremendous.
That's tremendous. What would you, if you had the chance, and you do, what right now, kind of capturing a little bit of your story, which I think is important, what would you advise a young person coming up, male or female, but that's coming up now? What would you tell them?
Well, first is get your education, and I'm not saying you have to go to college. Don't misunderstand me there.
There's traits,
but just get your education, and if you want to get involved in a trade, and I think there are tremendous opportunities in the trades. We've just gone through an add-on to our house, and so I've been dealing with a lot of these, and some of what these guys know and what they can make happen because of their knowledge is unbelievable, and they can almost write their own ticket,
right?
For what they charge and what they can make, and just stay on the straight and narrow. And
what do you think is about adversity? How would you tell a young person to handle adversity?
I think it's an opportunity.
Okay.
Adversity is an opportunity, and I'm saying particularly now in business, I just lost my biggest customer, or we got in this thing, there's a problem we've never handled before. That's an opportunity to be able to solve it for the customer, and to grow your knowledge and your business and the exposure to duplicate that. If you handle it well, to duplicate that, because word gets around. We talk about advertising and everything, but trust me, the word of mouth is a pretty good advertising.
It's funny you say that, right? So I used AI a lot at Microsoft, but for kind of different reasons. But in my little startup that I'm doing,
Yes.
you saw my spreadsheet.
Yes, sir.
Very detailed,
yes.
Right?
Very detailed.
do it. Pro forma is what we're talking about as you start the business. So there's plenty of templates. I built that, and I knew how to ask AI questions. But with AI, it's asking the right questions.
Yep.
Because it'll give you an answer to anything you ask. But I was teaming two AIs together, bouncing each answer off until I got to one that passed the litmus test for me. But the point I'm making is, I didn't know anything about that particular, with all the different skill sets and money and COGS and then salaries, permits, everything. I didn't know anything, and I made myself, for 3 months, I was running different things through AI, and I think you would call it prompt engineering in AI, to build that.
Okay.
All of that, and I talked to you, I talked to somebody else. What does this sound like? And I think, to your point, we won't talk about why I got in that situation, but what kind of led me to your point, this is just a problem to solve. Right. And so, what do you think? How much influence do you think God had from when you started with your father-in-law to now to be able to give your family something to leave and sell? What do you think God had to do with that?
Tremendous amount. You mentioned adversity. We went through 3 or 4 major adversities in my business life. One of them is after a hurricane, the power was out.
Mm-hmm.
And here it is, we've got freezers and coolers full of millions of dollars of product. Now, we had reserved a generator before the hurricane. Come to find out, when it's time to get the generator, they don't have it. So because of my association with this Unipro group, a good friend of mine in Florida had a portable generator that's on a flatbed truck.
Okay.
So we flew our transportation manager down there. He rented a tractor to pull that flatbed to Houston. We got hooked up. Now, again, it wasn't enough for everything, but just the way and the things we did to get through, and that was like 10 or 11 days that we had no public power. All we had was what we could do on generators. And so I'll never forget that first day that happened. I went up to my office and I kneeled down on the floor and I prayed. I said, I don't know, Lord, how you're going to, what the result will be. But whatever you do, if you could spare this, how much it means to our family and to the people that work here, because I felt like I had an obligation we call them employees, but I call them team members.
Yep.
And at that time when that incident, we probably had 120 or 25 people that worked for us. And so if we made it, they had a living. If we didn't make it, they were out on their own. Now they could get a job, but it's disruptive.
It's disruptive.
Yeah,
it really is.
And to get through that, we had a couple of floods. It's where our facility was down in the Heights area. We were not far from White Oak Bayou.
Mm-hmm.
And so actually had 12 inches of water inside the warehouse.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, is right. You know what? Probably a 15, 18-foot stack of toilet tissue on a pallet starts absorbing water. What it does, the bottom gives way and it goes over. I mean, it's just the things we went through. But if we didn't have God and knowing that He was there with us, now it wasn't hunky-dory, but we got it through it.
It's not always easy.
No, it's not easy.
I'm learning. It's funny. I was going through some stress a couple weeks ago as I was going through these different things, different types. I prayed out, but it is. I mean, I said this on an earlier podcast. I have to start over every day. That I'm a hypocrite. I sin, and I have to start over every day and ask for forgiveness and insight. And I remember, and so a couple weeks ago, I pick on our pastor a lot, but I was just having a rough, and I'm not a big tears guy. It takes a lot. I can only count a few times, but I told Aaron, I said, I'm just having struggles. I'm having worries. Is this the right direction? Do I just need to focus on something, right? And I said, hey, would you just keep me in your prayers? I called Aaron up and he goes, well, just pray right now. And he prayed for me over the telephone and I hung up. I was in tears. I didn't do it on the phone. I did it in private afterwards. But and then I don't forget, something happened and certain things came through, about, hey, some employment I'm looking at, and then some things that, on the business, I was like, just certain things started happening. And my worry went away. But like you said, there's still struggles. There's still struggles and everything else. And but I felt like, and I go back to what Aaron said earlier and some other things. These are opportunities.
There we go.
And I think you just kind of said it. It's an opportunity. And I've always been pretty good about when the world. I had an old mentor tell me. He goes. And I've tried to hold to this, that when the world's on fire, the person that keeps their head
right
through that fire is going to come out successful.
Yes, sir.
And I've always said that I'm not much of a whiner. I said, okay, I'll be upset for like a day or so and something big happens, but I just can't drill in it. I'm like, now I've got to fix it. I've got to go fix it. And it sounds like you just gave us two great scenarios that, when you had a problem, you went to prayer.
Yes.
And I think that's such a great thing to hear.
And of course, Linda.
Yeah.
She was there with us. And she would remind me, God's handling this.
What's that? How does it make you feel when you're doing this to have such a great partner behind you?
It's a day and night difference. I mean, to know that she's there with me. And again, we share everything. So she knew what I was going through and she would be praying. and of course, knowing Linda, she just didn't pray. She'd call all her friends.
She started praying. Yeah,
We had the whole team.
the whole team. No, that's exactly right. Such a nice woman. And I think we're both of us are lucky in this way. Is to have that woman that always seems to be in a good mood.
Right.
At least to the world. Now, there's that time that they might be mad at us.
Yeah.
Right. But,
been in the doghouse.
been there, but they were always in a good mood.
Yes, sir.
And ready. So I think we're both blessed in that way.
Yes, very much so.
No, I just thank you so much. Yeah, and as we go through this, I think your story, and just to kind of recap, construction. God has other plans for you. You meet the woman, of your dreams. That turns, and there's not always one path.
No.
That's the big. There's not always you. Who would have thought that a little egg company, and I mean, it's still a decent sized egg company, but now, like you said, this little egg company turns into a $250 million business.
Yeah.
And built on prayer.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll never forget when we finished our building, which was in 2010, over at Hollister and 249, above the door that goes into the office area, we put a scripture from Matthew. And the scripture was that with man, this is impossible, but with God, everything is possible. And that was kind of our MO going through all of that. That
quote right there you just did is going to make the short. What we do out here, what we found is some people to watch the whole video, but they'll pick up segments, and it's like the people can focus for like 2 minutes, and then they'll move off. But I guarantee you, what you just said is going to make the short. That is such a great, it's so true.
Oh, it is.
Anything's possible, and just we'll put this, we'll tie this all up. Is I think people misunderstand that just because you give it to the Lord, and I think this is one of the things me and my wife go through. Just because you give it to the Lord, especially in our roles, kind of head of the household, doesn't mean there's not worry and strife.
Oh yeah,
we're imperfect,
sure,
but it's that I think we're still going to worry, we're still going to do it, but you're still giving it to God, and you're just persevering through.
Amen.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. This has been tremendous.
Well, so as we wrap this up, we've heard your story. And so now you're obligated to tell us your fishing story.
Okay.
All right.
As a kid growing up, my parents were originally from a small town south of Marlin, Texas called Bremont.
Okay.
And it was a Polish community. When Polish immigrants came through Galveston, they go up to Bremont, and my mother was one of 11. It was 9 girls and 2 boys.
Wow.
And so I had some uncles. These were uncle in-laws. And when we'd go, our deal for vacation in the summer, we'd go up there for a week and stay with her different sisters and their families. And so every summer we go up there, we'd go with one of my uncles and we'd go river fishing.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't in a bass boat or anything like this. This is, and basically it's running trout lines.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget, you spent the night there on the banks of the river, and these cousins of mine, these were boys, we had built the fire and everything, and huge water moccasin starts, just in the sand there, it's going up. So one of my cousins goes to the front of this water moccasin, the other one goes around back, and one of them picks it up by the tail and starts slinging it. I'm going, golly, this guy's crazy.
Oh my.
So he finds a rock and bashes that thing on the head on the rock. And but you'd get up in the middle of the night and you'd run those lines, and they would put the catfish, and these are usually channel cats that we caught, and put them in a croaker sack, leave it in the water. Next couple hours later, you'd run them again. So that's my experience of fishing.
That is, I just go through that. Snakes scare me.
Yeah, well, they scare me.
And water moccasins are, outside of maybe some Asian vipers and everything, are just the meanest snakes. Yeah. I've had them chase me in boats.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I told her that. I think Peta's going to be mad because one was coming up on the boat when I was over in a river, and not the boat you used to see, but another one of my first. And he kept following me. I was trying to get away from him with the trolling motor, and he kept following me. So I said, "Okay, dude, I hate snakes." I let him. I trimmed the motor down just a little bit, and as he came into it, I cranked that motor. No more snake.
He got bladed.
He got a little. I tried to run. I tried to get away. I didn't want it, but he picked a fight with a mercury that he couldn't handle.
There we go.
Well, thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
I appreciate. This was just, again, you're one of my heroes every time, and as great as everything else, I think with your accomplishments that you had, I think the greatest accomplishment that just hit me home is how you and your wife met and how you brought your family into everything. Yeah. And so I think you're kind of the poster child for faith, family in what we do. And so again, thank you, sir, for doing all this.
Shannon, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, catch us on the next episode, and we appreciate everything. Talk to y'all later. If you want to be part of our interview series and become a guest member, just go out to faithfamilyfishing.com, drop us an email, and we'll get back to you. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a fishing story.